We can dive into all of it and what happened and why it happened. But, Cece, I'll start with you, and let's start from the Cowboys angle. What went so wrong for Dallas last night?
Well, it's not as if things went wrong. I expected Philadelphia to beat them soundly. So it's not as if I didn't expect this type of performance from Dallas. What I was a little surprised at was Dallas ran the ball effective enough, but Dak's overall decision-making, because going into the game, Dak knows he's under a different type of pressure. Now, we know coming into the game, Philadelphia, their defensive line being one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. Jim Schwartz is a defensive coordinator. He had 7 players that had played 250 snaps. So we knew that they'd have some type of rotation. Coach Mangini sat here and said, I thought he thinks that Dallas should maybe at the beginning of the game go to a no-huddle offense to take advantage of them just having one unit. They didn't do that. This was a divisional game, a hard-hitting game. Dallas's defense played well enough to be able to keep the game within striking distance. Carson Wentz, I like the fact that he had patience, even though he didn't have a great outing.
Right.
What you want to see is young players find a way to win. Don't turn the football over, all right? Convert third downs. They had a hard time doing that. But methodically, you could see that Philadelphia, they're just a lot better team than the Dallas Cowboys at this point. Now, Dallas, their coaching staff, they did a good job as far as helping the offensive line, totally different than they did in the Atlanta game where they gave up the 8 sacks. But Dallas's defense played about as well as they could play for the first 2.5, 3 quarters of the game. And then Philadelphia, they have more playmakers. They have better players. They have a better offense and defensive line than the Cowboys do right now. So this was the result that I expected, so not surprised at all.
Here's what would be so frustrating if I were a Cowboys fan. Cece, you laid out what Dallas would have to do to have a chance to win this football game. And it is exactly what they did in the first half. And it was working. You talked about all week staying dedicated to the run. Your key was at least 32 carries.
Yeah, shorten the game.
Even if they weren't super effective with the run game. In the first half, 19 rushes. Only 69 yards on those rushes, but you know what it allowed? Their offense was on the field for 18 and a half minutes. So the defense, when it was out there, was fresh, was not gassed. And guess what? In the first half, Philly, it was their worst offensive outing of the year. They didn't convert a single first down. Carson Wentz was dreadful in the first half. He was averaging 4.5 yards per pass. He was completing less than 40% of his passes. The Cowboys were doing exactly what they had to do to keep it close.
Except create turnovers.
They hadn't created turnovers, but they went into the half up 9-7. And if the offense just hadn't sputtered after the opening kickoff where Switzer takes it down, gives them great field position, like the Cowboys could have even had a larger lead. But they go to halftime saying, okay, this is exactly where we wanted to be. We knew we weren't going to be able to blow out Philly, but we wanted to be a 1-score game. It's a 1-score game plus in our favor. Let's go out and try to do the same thing. And the problem was, as has been the theme for the Cowboys this season, the other team makes halftime adjustments. They do not, and the game changes dramatically in the third quarter. There's 32 teams in this league. Some of them are terrible. Some of them have DeShone Kizer at quarterback. Some of them are not even trying to win games this season. Not a single team in the league has been outscored by more points than the Cowboys in the third quarter. The Cowboys have been the worst third quarter team in the league, and this is now the third game that they had a halftime lead that they went on to lose. So they had a good game plan for the first half. Philly made some adjustments. Dallas couldn't. Dallas got punched in the mouth on the opening drive for Philly the second half, and they could not recover.
And that's something that we talk about a lot, is that this Dallas team isn't making in-game adjustments. They aren't doing what they need to do during the game. They end the game, win or lose, and then they start thinking about what they can or cannot do. Why is it so hard for Jason Garrett to make those in-game adjustments, CC?
Well, I think it's a hard conclusion to draw to, because at 9-7, the reason why they're leading that game, in 9-7, yes, technically it is a lead, but I mean, it's only 2 points in the lead. So it wasn't as if Philadelphia was down 2 touchdowns or 10 points. Dallas did make adjustments, but what you saw in the second half, the wide receivers don't make plays. Dez Bryant, the top 3 receivers last night, Dez Bryant averaged 4.5 yards per target. Terrence Williams, 5 yards per target. Your boy Cole Beasley, seems like they found out about him.
Love that guy.
1.8 yards. Love him. You and his mama only, okay?
No.
1.8
I said
yards.
you love that guy. That's not my. I got guys. That's not my guy.
I was just looking at you talking to him. Okay.
Thanks for
1.8
clarifying.
yards. So they did make adjustments. So this is not about Dallas' staff. They made adjustments, but also in the adjustments, like Philadelphia, players made plays. Carson Wentz played better in the second half. Their offensive line played better in the second half.
Yeah.
Their defense played a lot better in the second half. So I wouldn't stay in just that lane. Dallas didn't make adjustments. Now, we saw in the Atlanta game, they didn't help out the tackle. They changed everything up. They really tried to help this offensive line, and at halftime, had them in position to try to win the game in the second half. But at some point, I can make adjustments, but if the guys don't make plays, that's what it comes down to. And that's probably the thing that probably has me the most disappointed in the Cowboys, not only this game, but this year or the last year and a half. The wide receivers, especially Dez Bryant, he's not an elite player. They don't make enough plays to build support Dak. Now, especially with Zeke being out, where you need wide receivers to make big plays down the field, they don't have that.
And your Dez Bryant point, I mean, you've been making this point all year, and it's, I mean, a totally fair one. It's not Chris picking on Dez. It's not even what we do sometimes, or at least what I do sometimes, which is hold great players to a much higher standard than we hold everyone else, maybe an unfair standard. Dez Bryant is now 0 for getting 100 yards in a game in his last season's worth of regular season games. 16 regular season games, 0 100-yard games. Like, that's unacceptable. So I understand the wide receivers needed to be better. Dak had his worst game as a pro, and it's not even close. Dak was really bad. And I get, CC, that 9-7 isn't a huge halftime lead. But you know what a huge halftime discrepancy is? 30-0. And that's what happened in the second half for the Cowboys. And even you couldn't even take advantage of the little things, such as Philly doesn't have a field goal kicker. So they're going for it on fourth downs. Like, you know that. Once you see their linebacker kicking off, you know, okay, this team's not going to be able to kick field goals, which means we can play a slightly different style of defense.
It doesn't matter that much when the team is that much better than you.
Man, they looked a lot better than
it also lets you know how you can play a game without a kicker.
Yeah, clearly.
Okay?
So the other thing is, and with regards to what you were talking about with Dak, he said afterwards, I think the biggest problem for us is we didn't have a balanced run game and pass game. And I know there were a lot of issues other than that, but Dak Prescott found himself running for his life most of the game. And I know he was missing his left tackle, and I know he didn't have Zeke in the lineup. But for a guy who generally prides himself on being poised and calm and has that maturity that we don't expect from second-year players, he just looked so out of sorts yesterday.
I was the guy who said last year Dak should have been the league MVP. I've been a huge proponent of Dak Prescott. I made the point last week, and I will make it again. All of these gaudy Dak Prescott numbers, CC. He's the highest quarterback rating through 25 games. All these first through 25 games, all these records he has, they have all been predicated on one thing: that he doesn't turn the ball over. That has been his touchdown-interception ratio. It's not because he makes these huge plays. Yeah. It's because he does not turn the ball over.
But if you put enough pressure on the quarterback, if his weapons aren't making plays, and we said Dak has to play a little more reckless. He's got to throw the ball in the coverage. He's got to take chances for them to be able to win, all right? In the NFL, if you hit the quarterback, all right, the great become good, the good become average, the average become pathetic.
And the pathetic become Nate Peterman. Sorry, go ahead.
Whoa.
I wonder what the theme is going to be throughout this show today.
Yeah, you kind of killed my thing. But
I apologize. I apologize, Susie.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.